How wonderful would it be?
Thank you, everyone here on in our Zoom forum for meeting again. We have people from Japan, from London, from oh, did you restart the recording, Alan, or no? Did you okay. Yeah, we have people from all around the world, abstract photographers. Many of us are found abstract photographers, but all with a variety of styles and processes and huge depth and wealth of experience in photography in different mediums. So we have these meetings to kind of nerd talk about photography. We're kind of just happy to find other people who are keen to talk and listen and share about this topic. It started after Alan Alan, who's going to be featured today, was doing abstract art Zoom calls and Zoom forums, and I had been thinking around that time to do something similar just for abstract photography. So he helped me set this up, and yeah, we put a quick call out there and got a good group of people together. One of our members sadly passed away kind of unexpectedly, and so for him we did a tribute to him by everyone selecting photographs from his feed and taking some time to talk and discuss what we liked about it, what we liked about him as a photographer, what we noticed about his process or whatever. And again, Alan had a great idea that we could do something similar for ourselves while we're still alive. It's nice to hear. One of the things I love about this group is that you get to hear other photographers talk about photography through their perspective, through their eye, and it really helps you see photography, and it helps me see photography in a different way, hearing different photographers talk about their process. So yeah, that's the format that we've been doing for the last few, and so I have a selection of photography here. Maybe what we'll do, Alan, is you can share the screen to me, and then I will pass it over to you.
Maybe I can make you co-host again. So
okay, yeah, no problem. All right, so I can. Where's my share screen? Oh, there we go. Share screen. Okay. Do you see Alan's feed here?
There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically we're going to start by Alan. I'm just going to ask Alan, who's our featured artist today, to say a little bit about himself and maybe start talking about what his background in photography is and anything you want to add before we start looking at your profile. So over to you, Alan.
Yeah, well, I've been photographing for, I'm trying to add it up, 45 plus years. I studied photography at Monterey Peninsula College in California, and then I transferred to San Francisco State University, and I got a degree in art history there. And early on, I did a little bit of abstract photography, but I did mostly traditional type photography for years. And then it's actually when I found Instagram and started showing my work on Instagram about 4 years ago. I started focusing on my abstract photography more, and I kind of became known for it. So I really started to develop that more. And it's actually being on Instagram and just the feedback and support I've gotten. It's really, it's been the most creative period of my life these last 4 years. So I've been doing this abstract photography on Instagram a lot, but in the last few months, I've been doing more composite photography. And I've always in doing the abstract work, I would do composites here and there. I would put a couple of abstract photographs together, although it might not have been obvious. And but the last few months, I've been more consciously doing composite photography, and basically taking a photograph that I've taken, and it could have been years ago, you know, of a traditional photograph, and then combining with an abstract photography background, and I've gotten good response from it. So that's where I am, and that's what I'm doing currently. That's what I'm doing. So that's about it, Tim.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So let's just get started on people's submissions. A lot of people commented, as usual, how difficult it is to choose just one. But I believe this is Barb. Barb, are you here? Is Barb here? Barb Kruder. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going then and come back to Barb if she joins us. We got next, I believe this is Paul's. Paul, is this yours?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect.
I'm usually much later in the selection. Looks like
if you want to take a pass, you're
no,
like
no, I won this time.
We're going to take advantage of your dreamy consciousness right now.
My subconscious state.
Yeah.
This is my favorite image of Alan's, which seems like a bit of a kind of heretical statement to make because there's so many amazing ones. When I was working on the interview for Hintology, you know, with Alan, I had the sort of the pleasure of looking through his whole gallery and really spending time with them to try and choose what I thought was most representative and even the best of that phrase doesn't seem right because there's so much I love from Alan's gallery, and as he was explaining, he's kind of gone through different phases, and what he's doing recently, you know, with the composite images, is kind of just blowing my mind. I'm very jealous, but this is the photo that I felt most envious of. I wish I'd taken it. I'm just so jealous of it. I love the title, Big Bang, because it looks like a found abstract Big Bang. It draws me in, and then I'm just thrown back out again. It feels like the universe is kind of collapsing and then exploding again. That kind of the active kind of watching that we often talk about, and that happens on these Zoom meetings where we're sort of encouraged to indulge and spend longer than we normally would just scrolling through our feed, really works with this one for me. I can just keep looking and looking, seeing different colors, different shapes, different details, getting lost in different parts. It's almost like a kind of fragmented collage of thousands of different photos. As you can see, I'm pretty envious of it. Maybe Alan, do you want to say something about this? It's always weird when people tell you their favorite photos, and it's not always the same for you, but you must like this one.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate your comments and insights, and I appreciate what you said about this. Yeah, this is not one that I would have picked out. But hearing you talk about, it's like, oh yeah, there is, you know, some nice things going on in it. But and let me say, it's just really weird talking about your own work, you know. So yeah, I think at the time I did it, I was really happy with it, and I'm still happy with it. But you know, it's kind of like you let the I can't remember the phrase, but with milk, you let the cream rise to the top.
Mm.
And I have other images that have kind of risen to the top more than this one. So, so I had actually kind of forgotten about this one.
And you've moved on in some ways, but do you think you might revisit this and use it for one of your composite images? Do you think you could go back to it at some point?
No, because I'm seeing when I'm doing composite imagery, I need a very specific kind of abstract photograph that's not too complex or not too detailed. And there's too much going on in this one.
That's true.
I mean, I said no right away, but now, as I'm looking at it, it might be worth playing with. When we were doing Barb's pictures, one thing she talked about is that she just goes into Photoshop to start playing.
Yeah.
And basically that's what I do, and so sometimes like I'll make up my mind, no, this won't work, but then somebody like you, Paul, would say something. It's like, well, actually, now that I look at it, maybe I could do something. But I mean, I think in doing this kind of doing abstract work and also doing composite photography, there are so many directions you can go in, and I think to kind of close myself off to any one of those directions, I mean, I do that sometimes, but I think it's best just to try to keep my mind open.
It's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming the amount of options you have once you bring Photoshop into it. It's almost too many options. If you know how to use it, I guess the tool is really powerful, but if it's just Well,
I find even in doing abstract work, I have to limit myself. I have to put boundaries around what I'm doing. And I do have parameters when I'm working on something. I don't want to go too far in any one direction. And and I do quite a bit of work in Photoshop. If you saw the original of this image would not look as colorful because I go in on different parts of the image and I pull out different colors. If I remember, I think this is a little bit more monotone when I started, but I was able to kind of punch up the color in different areas. And sometimes I will work in one small area, for several minutes until it feels right. And it's not really a intellectual conscious decision when it feels right. It's more, in my gut, it's like, okay, yeah, that it kind of falls into place intuitively, if that makes sense.
Nice.
Alan, just
Can
quickly.
I add something? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Someone speaking. Alan, you mentioned before that the abstract images in your composite images are kind of the background to a more representational piece. Is that the case? Was that just a sort of a manner of speaking, or how do you think of those composite images? Is the abstract image sort of the first layer and then you build on top of it, or could it be possible that it's the other way around, that a representational fragment could be part of a sort of abstract image?
Well, it could go either way, but I think the more traditional photograph is the one that kind of draws your attention. So sometimes I'll start with the background that I really like, and then I'll look for an image that would go with it. And sometimes I'll start with an older image that I really like, and then I find a background to go with it. And sometimes I have to try different combinations. I mean, I don't always hit it the first time. And sometimes I'll go through and work on an image for an hour or even more, and it doesn't quite sit right. And then I'll come back a week or two later and I'll try a different abstract image with it, and then it'll fall into place. So it's there's nothing really cut and dried about it. I just have to keep, like Barb was saying, I have to keep playing with it and trying different things until I hit on the right combination. So.
I love your experimentation. It's very inspiring.
Yeah. So
a bit off topic. I'm not copying you, but we had in our provincial museum an exhibition, The Big Bang of Art. And I saw it. It's one of the big things happening here. And I got inspired for a few photos, which I thought I would also call Big Bang. But
Wow.
I'm not doing it after seeing your picture. They are in my pipeline.
Thanks, Anke. I think Nirvana wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Nirvana.
Okay, sorry, there's noise around me, so I'm trying to keep the mic off. I wanted to say that, well, a little bit on what Paul was saying, and you just said, and looking at where you're taking your your work nowadays with the overlapping layering of images. I always, when I first discovered your work, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a year. I got this feeling like there's a lot of links to other works, like for example to Wendy's and others, but there's something about what you see, not in every photo, but in many of them, and it's become more and more often that well, for me, you kind of already were layering before even using the imaging. You were already looking for abstract compositions where there were like two images happening, like a frame and a deeper point. Later when we get to other photos, I think that's going to show up several times. I was very unsure. I actually really like this photo as well. I think I didn't choose it. I said because somebody's probably going to choose that one. Because I think it's really, it kind of happened already in this photograph because it has a lot, like the object, the bump had a lot of detail and such, but you can really see, like you're looking at, there's like, there's all these levels, like a kind of a mirroring, a bottom, a reflection, like a glass. There's like all these layers to it. And it really depends a lot, and not just how close you look at it, but also how, like where the contrast and where the translucent parts are. I think you must have some eye for that, like translucency and deep color sometimes turns out to be in your photographs like something to look at, like the negative space becomes a thing, or you blend those things. I find that very interesting in a lot of your work. And that's why when I saw that you were starting to blend other images inside the abstract, I'm like, I see, he was looking that way.
A natural progression.
That's a great comment, and yeah, I think that's probably accurate. But you know, I've talked about this before, but I was on a shoot with Wendy about a year ago, and after shooting for an hour and a half, I get to a point where I'm not even sure I know what I'm doing. And I talked to Wendy about that. I said, I don't even know why I'm shooting what I shoot sometimes. And it's only later when I pulled up in Photoshop that I start seeing more detail and more possibilities of what I could do with it. But when I'm actually out shooting, especially in a place where I could shoot for a couple hours, just bam, 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 I'm not thinking a whole lot. I'm just kind of, I see something and intuitively I just take the shot. So yeah, some images I have consciously layered, but other images like this, yeah, it looks like there could be, well, there are kind of several layers there because I am shooting through glass. So there's a layer of the glass and I'm shooting into a depth behind the glass. So, but that was a great comment.
I think it's very
we need
interesting.
to move on though, Tim.
What's that? Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's go move on to the next. We're gonna try and keep it moving here. The next person after Paul was Anke. I think this is Anke's, if my records show. Anke?
Yes, it is. I'm just turning myself on again.
Okay,
Yeah.
welcome back. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, what can I say about it? I love the colors in it, and the structure was a kind of mystery to me. Well, so was the last one as well, but yeah, I can't really figure out at all what it was. What's the point of it? But, yeah.
For this one, I see a lot of motion. Like I feel like there's those lines kind of just indicate a lot of action going on in that movie. It's swooping down and maybe some water, but yeah, like really active. It's really, yeah, clearly a lot of motion going on. I like that about it.
Yeah,
My
there's
question
this swoosh up and down, and then like paint brush strokes. Yeah. And the different colors in the background.
My question was it composite even? I could not also, it's not like an American politics in 2023 that where I got lost also, but this one was close. There is, because in the very center of it, there is some kind of a reflection of the wheel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
But it's not the composite, or?
It made me think that maybe it's a poster that's been scratched, like a dumpster, maybe.
Yeah, to be honest. Go ahead, Lesley.
I was just going to say that, yeah, you created it with your left hand, didn't you? So I wondered if the movements were less controlled and that's why they feel broader. Is that something that you thought about when you were creating it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, because I'm doing it all in Photoshop, so it's, you know, and to be honest, I don't really remember what this was an image of. I think it was scratch. Oh, you know what? I think it was scratches on a car.
Okay.
Yeah, that looked right. A bumper.
Yeah, but to be honest, I really don't remember what the original looked like because I did quite a bit of work on it.
Okay, find something else.
Very cool. And yeah, the contrast between the grays and blacks and whites popping out of the color background. I really like that too.
This is one that I nearly chose. I really like this one.
And it's one of those ones that plays with scale again. You know, like at the sort of top leftish, you've got that big, you know, sort of swoop, almost like kind of like an aeroplane trail or something. And then you've got, you know, little scratches, which, you know, it could be someone just working on a little, you know, Etch-a-Sketch or something. It really messes around with scale, just suddenly zooming out and then getting smaller again. You know, like a huge kind of sky in the background and clouds. Yeah, it's really fun. I like that sensation.
And yeah, it looks like it's done with like almost with a palette knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It's weird that there's so much depth and texture in scratches, right? Because that feels like a superficial graze, you know, something's knocked against this bumper or something, but there's so much history there, so much layering of those little scratches. It's quite incredible.
I think
again, very jealous. I need to check out bumpers more.
I'm trying to see the bumper in it, but I can't.
It's just the whole thing is a bumper, so it's hard to make it out. But
I think it's turned like 90 degrees. You could see it's
okay.
That the motion going that way across a bumper. But yeah. What were you going to say, Lesley? Did you say something?
I was just saying that my car could probably provide you with quite a lot of scratches.
you should drive more safely, or be careful.
Yeah.
Or have a dark colored car and only crash into colorful cars, or vice versa. Have a colorful car and crash into black and white cars. You're guaranteed some nice color contrast.
Are you literally suggesting this, Tim? This is one of the most dangerous pieces of art advice you've ever given.
Exactly.
No, but it makes sense. That's how you take abstract photography into the area of
right.
active
performance,
arts,
yeah.
things that you do.
I'll fight the
Kind of makes
charges
you
with
wanna learn to
creative.
drive.
I'll fight the charges with creative freedom, freedom of expression. We can we're allowed to express ourselves by crashing into cars to get good art.
Well, if we don't see you for a while, Tim, we know what's happening.
You know, I'll write letters. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one. Let's see. We got, I think this is Muriel. Is Muriel in the Zoom?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Muriel.
Hello. I will read my note because it's difficult for me to speak in English. So I love I love the title, obviously, for this image because the light is very strong. I also I like this diagonal and which is also we can see the diagonal also on the ground, and the two silhouettes are responding one each other. On the ground, I also saw some kind of reflection, like if the cloud, the cloud of the light of the cloud, of the white cloud, was reflecting on a kind of white and glossy floor. And well, I can see, I really see the man angling. For me, it could also be aiming with for archery. Could you understand that, or I don't pronounce? Yeah, that's it. That's it. And he could be on his knee or standing, and I can see also the her shadow between behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So these silhouettes for me are very, very evocative, between something between Don Quixote and Giacometti man. The body is very, very present. The father leaning back in tension, and is soon, or the little one looking up with and paying very attention. And there is a lot of tension because he is aiming. He is totally the father, I will call him. The father is totally focused on his shooting, and there is a sharpened intention and a great intensity giving off from this image. It has in the instant decisive. I think it is a decisive moment to do you know that of Cartier-Bresson, Henri Cartier-Bresson, the French photographer? Does everybody know, or
No.
what is the decisive? Well, Henri Cartier-Bresson is one of the I can see we can say the leader of the French humanist photography school, black and white after war school.
Cartier-Bresson?
Sorry?
Cartier-Bresson?
Yeah.
Henri
Oh yeah, we know him.
Yeah, and he's a great photographer, and he spoke about the in French we call it instant décisif, but I think in English is a decisive moment, and which is caught with street photography art, and he defined it as a simultaneous recognition in a fraction of second of the significance of an event, as well as of precise organization of forms which gives that event its proper expression. I mean, they are both very composed. Its photographies are very, very it's really great in terms of composition, but all have a kind of intensity of about what is occurring, which is about an event. And obviously here the event is in my imagination. And but I think it's very interesting to have this decisive moment in abstract photography. It's a great fusion. I can see that fusion, a mixture between well, there's a lot of life in this image and a lot of tension.
Nice. Sorry, I got lost there. Good, yeah. Beautifully said and applied to Bresson. What's his name? Henri Cartier.
Bresson. Yes,
yeah.
I will put. Yeah. Oh, you have shown. Okay.
Yeah, I'm showing it. I'm curious to see more of him.
I have a question about the title. Angling, does it mean like an angle or fishing? It's more like fishing in the picture, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, to me, when I pulled it up that one night and got the title, it looked to me like this guy was casting a line, and it looked like he was hooking the light. So when I say angling for light, yeah, he's fishing for light. So to me, that took on a bit of a more spiritual connotation, which I really liked. I'm not a religious person, but I do look for spiritual connections in art, in my work and other people's work. So
I love that metaphor, Alan, of fishing for light, angling for light. You know, I just did that Vox Pop recently, and that was one of the metaphors that didn't come up, but I absolutely love it. The kind of patience you need, that kind of mindfulness that you need to just walk the streets or look around you, waiting for a little ripple, waiting for a bite, and then you pull. That's a great metaphor for what we're trying to do.
And just, you know, those times where you're just watching the clouds as they're coming in, trying to figure out, like a swimmer, you know, like deciding whether you can go in for a swim or not if the sun's out. The same kind of thing happening with the photographer. Like, okay, is the cloud where's it coming? How much time do I have before it gets blasted with sunlight or they'll lose my light? So I like that idea too of angling. That's what it made me think of.
Well, and I like that phrase the way you said waiting for a bite. It's like when I'm actually want to, you know, create a new piece, I'll go through all my images until something pops out of me, or until one of them, you know, nibbles my hook, and then I can pull it out of my selection of photographs and start working on it, filleting it, so to speak.
Very nice.
This one has a very interesting, like, light quality.
Yeah.
It looks to me, looking at it a little bit from where Muriel was talking, which I agree, there's something very Don Quixote to it. I saw more than an archer. I saw like somebody trying to throw a, how do you call it in English? Tim, do you know what a papalote is?
Papalote.
A kite.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a Mexicanism.
Oh,
yeah. A kite. Kind of a kite, but the kite is the cloud, or is the gush of light. And what surprises me of this image, I don't think I would have looked at it like more directly until Muriel pulled it out. It has a very, well, to my eyes, a very Dali-esque landscape light and feeling to it. Like it's this hyper realistic but surreal blending. No, I think the light is beautiful in the back. The figures are, yeah, they definitely look like figures. I mean, the paint squibbles or something, but it has this very like oniric subconscious landscape kind of feeling to it through the light. And yeah, it's a beautiful piece.
I agree. The horizon adds this kind of barren mud flat that they're on, be with the huge sea or sky behind. I also like that there's basically the guy who's kneeling and shooting or fishing in the sky. He's got a long leg that comes all the way down, almost right to the camera and up. Like, I was just thinking you could have cut that out and focused more on the sky, but I like that you gave it space to have that leg in the foreground, and really set this idea of like it being in this big plagia or this huge space where they are and not as confined.
You know, and actually, the last two comments about it being looking like a landscape, this hadn't occurred to me before, but when Nirvana was talking, all of a sudden I got an image of Waiting for Godot, because in Waiting for Godot, the landscape was very sparse and spare.
Yeah.
But they're waiting, they're searching, they're looking for something, and so all of a sudden, Waiting for Godot kind of occurred to me when I was looking at this image.
It feels very beachy to me. It feels like seaweed is the figure, and it feels like a kind of a sea and a beach, or maybe a sand dune. Just the colors look like that to me.
Yeah, you can almost see like some boats or ships on the sea, on the sort of low horizon there. Huh.
Yeah.
To me, it feels a little bit like, you know, those salars in Bolivia, these spaces that are flat and kind of desertic, but get water. And there's a lot of photographs about how the sky reflects completely on the 2 centimeters of water. Oh, sorry, guys, the gas guy is doing noise. Anyway, it reminds me of a lot of photographs of salars in Bolivia.
Cool.
Just one thing about the title, about the Anke question. Maybe the angling could also function with the other meaning of angling, because it's like an angle, a very acute, very angle, and so I think angling, it's well, the title is could have several meanings.
And Muriel, I love your connection, your reference to Giacometti as well, those really elongated figures, and what Tim was saying about that really stretched leg as well kind of reminded me of that. There's so many allusions and references going on here, which of course are all kind of from our minds, but again, it's just incredible how much you can draw from one image.
And I think that goes back to Alan's like intuitive idea when he's just going around taking pictures and not knowing what they are. It's because they have all these things kind of at the fringes of them. He sees one of them, but he knows, okay, that's got enough there. That's got some stuff going on that people are going to see more than one thing. And I think that's part of that, like, photography intuition. Maybe Alan can speak to that.
And I think our knowledge of art history must add to that as well. Sorry.
What was that, Paul?
Just your knowledge of art history, I think must add to your perception, your awareness. We all see millions and millions of images and sensations every day, of course, and which ones jump out to us. And we know that over time, our kind of like awareness of what could be made into a picture, could be made or transformed into art, increases. It gets more subtle over time, right? Because we see more potential. But I'm sure, well, you know, this is my theory about your mind, but just your knowledge of art history and the vast possibilities, the array of possibilities of images allows you to see the potential in things that other people might not see. So you might see this and have all of the references and allusions that we're ascribing to it, and you might see something in it which other people might pass by. So I think the more you look at art and understand it, the more potential you can see just in the world, you know, as this kind of open museum that we can pluck images from.
Yeah, when I first started in abstract imagery, I was consciously looking for images that could be paintings.
Right,
and I didn't always consciously think about particular artists, except for Rothko. I do think about him when I'm shooting. But yeah, sometimes subconsciously I shoot something that I could maybe relate to a different kind of artist in art history. But you know, in just talking about the title too, angling, it kind of struck me, could also be a term for positioning yourself, to giving yourself at the best angle to catch the light. You know, so I mean, that's why I like these discussions, because then it always brings up new ideas for me to think about.
Nice. Well said. I like, yeah, I agree. I will continue on. What's that? Did I miss something? No. Okay. Let's continue. I believe this is Nirvana's. Is this Nirvana's? Nirvana? Might be.
You might have had to go.
Oh, Nirvana, is
I'm
this?
here. I'm here. I was
Okay.
just listening while I had to do something.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, okay. So the other one, very good. I had two choices. I guess the other one got chosen by somebody else too. And this is, I think, a fantastic piece that shows a little bit that what I was seeing in Alan's work as going through it. I didn't know if I wanted to choose one of your newest pieces or one of your older ones where I kind of already could see that you kind of frame things. There's a frame here, a frame that's not, well, for me, I'm not sure if it's like you're in a kind of looking out of a cave, or a cave at maybe in like ocean or where water gets in. But what I really like is how there's like 3-4 frames going on here. My eye's not sure what to look at. There's not a subject per se, like the one Muriel showed. There's all this emptier space that we end up focusing on after we look at these things, at these parts that quickly look to us like figures or like the subjects. Here it's kind of the opposite. Even though there's a elongated cracked figure look, kind of, there's like 3-4 layers for me going on. There's the cracks, there's the kind of hairy brush something, and there's the blue, and then there's the way back. And so my mind and my eyes are trying to say, what am I looking at? And I end up looking into that furthest, deepest space that really has nothing. Well, it has color and stuff, but there isn't like a subject calling me there. But because there's all this framing going on, like there's frame on this side, and there's one on this side, and then one from top. My eye, I really like how my eye is attracted to look, or is guided to look at where there isn't necessarily something. And that makes me think more of the whole. And I wondered if something like that happens a little bit for you, such that then you wanted to maybe put something inside that final frame, like a figure, like the ones you've been putting with the superposition on Photoshop. I don't know. I really like this. I also find it very poetic. Emotionally, it's beautiful to look at, and very like, it invites you to look inside, and it's an outside inside kind of thing that I enjoy very much in your work. Not all your pieces, but it is, I think, a trend I see in a lot, or a theme that I see in a lot. It's not exactly a theme, it's a way of composing. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It feels like a contrast of light and dark to me, a sort of yin yang, which is almost, you could see that in the center.
Nice.
Beautiful wave. Crack.
Yeah, I see. For me, I just keep going back to it being like an elephant's eye, like a baby elephant's eye, close up, super close up.
Oh, I see that. I hadn't seen anything like that.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
The Eye of the Storm. Oh, that's the name too. Again, titles.
And it's interesting because in the eye of the storm, isn't that the calmest place? So
Right.
maybe
Yes.
that's why there's nothing going on in the middle, because it's all cycling around it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wendy cracked this one. She cracked the case.
Hey.
Well, and that eye in the middle is almost a yin yang symbol. So that's
Again,
kind of,
yeah.
Yeah, Lesley
Right.
was just saying that. Yeah.
For me,
Yeah,
it looks
this one-
kind of like those objects that architects and engineers use to know a level, it's called,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
where the drop has to show. And I like how it's not diagonal. It goes with the
Mhm.
flow with both the circle parts that are in contraposition from the top and the bottom. It's like the mediator and dynamic mediator.
The form of the black part feels quite geometric. It feels almost like a hexagon.
Mm.
yeah, this is actually a composite photograph. The dark area is one photograph and the lighter area is a different one. And
Ah,
it wasn't worked on their own. And I had to play with this quite a bit. Because on the darker image, there was a lot of these strands, and I didn't want them all. It's like I was trying to find a balance, and it took a lot of bit of work to kind of get the balance I was looking for.
very cool. I like with Alan's work, you kind of got to check the date on it. Be like, okay, what period of Alan's work are we in here? So I get it. Is this a composite? Is it one image? Like I like that Alan's work gets you guessing too. Like what is it? You know, how did he make that? Or what is this found? Is this not found? Did he, you know, I like that part of looking at Alan's work.
Mm.
It's so well done. Technically, the composite imaging, the light and the contrast, that even though it's really unexpected, and I'd say, where did he find this? It actually seems totally normal to me, like natural.
Yeah, I
Great
wouldn't have
work
guessed.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my goal in not just in composite photography, but in just doing abstract photography in general, when you're working in Photoshop, it's so easy to be heavy-handed. So the key for me is just subtlety, you know. And I like the phrase, as subtle as the letter B in the word subtle, because you can't don't get that being subtle.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, to try to achieve that subtlety, sometimes it's really hard. And if I can't achieve it, then I'll just leave it and go on to something else.
What attracts you of the subtlety?
Pardon me?
What is it that attracts you so much about the subtlety?
Well, when I talk about subtlety, I'm talking about using the tools in Photoshop. I don't want people to look at this and say, oh yeah, that was Photoshopped.
I see.
I like to try to blend it in a way that people don't know right away if I'm using Photoshop.
You don't want to draw attention to it being from Photoshop. Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, to me, because that's kind of detracts from looking at the image itself. I mean, I see images where it's obvious people use Photoshop, and that's where my mind goes. So I try to avoid that.
Like a big action sequence where you're like, oh, that couldn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
You know?
Or when you're watching a movie, sometimes the acting's so bad that I see the actors in the studio going over their lines instead of just following the story, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It pulls you out of the experience.
Yeah,
Nice.
actually I want to get lost in the experience.
Great. Okay, here we're going to continue on with the next one here. This is Taras.
That's mine.
I think. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't call it favoring because no, it's just impossible. It's too many favorites there. I chose also, there was one called In the Beginning, which is also like cosmological, like Paul also did. And that was also more in my style. It was black and white, just really white in the middle. And I loved it also. But then I basically lost. I basically still lost. I could not choose the one. And then I thought this one, like seeing this like a guy aged 12, maybe somehow divergent from his mates and starting to look inside, like starting to look outside, starting to look on the sky, like you have these constellations around him. And then I thought maybe it's me actually. So this is really like it's so deep. I mean, so many layers again. I don't know if it's composite. Probably not. It's just found, probably no.
This is 189 weeks ago, so I'm guessing non-composite. That's my guess.
Yeah, this is just a straight photograph.
Yeah, straight photograph. But so much happens here, so much layers. I mean, it's like also as many others works. Yeah, I love it. I made already a homage for Alan, maybe too prematurely, but yeah, I was struck when I discovered this through Hintology. So in the beginning, you know, I could not even distinguish Hintology and this might be due to that. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, just amazing.
Yeah, great finding the writing that goes across. That's the only part I thought maybe this is composite, is the writing across the center. Like that's something Alan would do, is put some kind of hard to read writing across something. But
Yeah, it has it all.
yeah, mysterious for sure.
Is that like a little alien at the top, a little spaceship? I didn't notice.
It's an eye or an alien. I think either way, for sure it has an otherworldly, like it looks like they're building the pyramids there. The aliens built little alien ship with the pyramids on the top.
Maybe they put all of the abstract images for us to find around the world.
Right. Alien eyes.
The
It
alien
looks like
third
an eye
eye.
at the bottom as well. The bottom
Oh, yeah?
left looks like eyelashes and maybe an eye.
Yeah.
A bit like the sort of spiky urchin eyelashes of the last one as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes have it.
Yeah,
And
following us
on the
around.
right, you also have a shadow, like a face. There's an open mouth in the center on the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where are you looking? I'm trying to make it out.
it happens with abstract photography where sometimes we're going to miss the same thing. Sorry, Taras, where is he saying? I'm curious to find them.
No, the face, I mean, the Paul cannot find it. It's in the middle on the right. It's like a dark one, black one on the white background, kind of.
Another eye or a face?
A face, a head, like a shadow.
I mean, I'm seeing other things too, but I'll take your word for it, Taras, that you see it. But yeah, it definitely has a dreamy quality to it, like a very interdimensional kind of dreamy quality. Like I like what Tara said too. Like it's like a guy who's on the threshold between a dream world and the nighttime or something like that in his world.
I think it's interesting how the profile is kind of dissolving. It looks like he's blending into whatever is around him and maybe losing or finding a part of himself from somewhere.
Yeah. This could make an amazing book cover. An amazing TV, but wow, you'd buy this book, wouldn't you? I don't even have to read it. It's so good.
I wonder.
Yeah, you know, I found this image at the Salton Sea, and the Salton Sea is there's a lot of little cities around there that have been abandoned, and this is like graffiti. Somebody came through and did some graffiti on, I think it was the back of a trailer or something. But as I look at it, I like the way the writing. You can't always decipher it the same way. You know, when I think about my thoughts, sometimes they're articulate, but sometimes they're not. And it's almost like the thoughts passing through this kid's head, and I kind of like that idea. And also that eye at the top, it kind of creates a pyramid, like on the back of a dollar bill, the Masonics pyramid with the eye at the top of the pyramid.
Totally.
That didn't occur to me before until we started talking about that, but I like that aspect of it also.
They're quite interesting words that I can make out. It looks like flame, water, universe, solitude. It kind of looks like words that are
I can see something we experience at the bottom.
Yeah.
We experience something stands in opposition to where? Okay. No, it's not unreadable. Something,
I mean,
yes.
who wrote this? The artist is incredible.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering. How many
I mean,
artists
this is so
were on
intentional.
this? Like, I think the eye and the black spot inspired kind of the stencil on top. And I wonder if the same person wrote on top of it or
Yeah.
left it as is. Like, it feels
Right.
like very intentional within the chaos, and the layering could have happened by several people. And then Alan came and called it as it is.
Yeah.
Very
Amazing.
wonderful. Cooperative.
Right.
Wonder if it's
Incidental
evolved.
cooperation.
Somebody saw the pyramid with the eye or the eye on the black spot and made those bricks on top before, but it probably had ripped already, so they only did the top part.
But that's part of the beauty of the mystery of this found photography, is that the order of operations is kind of unknown. You know what layers are on top of which at some point, but really it's a total miraculous mystery how this thing actually came to exist.
And
And
then
is it
after
even an eye
interpretation-
actually on top? Maybe it's a solar system on top, not an eye. You see, there's several
Right.
circles.
Could be a bug, could be.
Ah.
Well, you talk about the mystery of how this came into being, and consciousness or thinking, to me, is a mystery. I mean, where did our consciousness come from?
Sure.
That takes you back to some very basic questions about life and who we are and where we came from. So
Right.
all that feeds into it.
For sure. That's part of my attraction to this kind of photography, for sure. All right, let's keep moving. This is great. It's 1 o'clock. All right, next up. This is, someone wants to claim before. I think this is Wendy's.
Yeah,
Wendy? All right.
yeah. This is my choice. I can't say it's my favorite because I couldn't choose. I had about 6 that were vying, and one that was very strongly vying. But I think that this image represents what I feel about Alan's work and his use of color. That really, some of them more so than this one, but it really full of light, and there's a subtlety to his color. It's never overdone. It's never like what I would call like vivid or harsh. His light is, he handles light and color very delicately. He used the word subtle. I think that color is subtle. And also too, his use of texture in his work is creates there's a lot of detail, but at the same time, because of his compositions, those details become they're not distracting at all. They're part of the whole. But he does have very strong subjects, even among like images that are chaotic, where there's so much going on. There's always, Alan always finds, for me, he always finds his subject, and it's always, for me, he the way it directs my eye, I'm never stopped. I never find a glitch. And in this, I just think that the movement is sweeping, lovely, and there's a delicacy to it. And it's really representative of a lot of his images that I think that have wonderful movement, despite really all of the detail that are in these images. Let me see, I have a list of things just because I can get things. Yeah, I mean, a lot of his images have chaos, there are chaotic elements to it, but there's great movement, and as I said before, you know, my eye follows it. I think I'm sweeping in front of my face. I can't see me on the screen, but and his work has a lot of flow and energy and movement. I think it was Muriel, it says like a dance. Yes. His work and this piece itself. I love that his work is really balanced. There's a lot of asymmetry in Alan's work, but it's very balanced. And this particular image, I think one of the reasons why I chose it, because it reminds me of a sculpture I saw at LACMA, the LA Museum of Art, and a number of years ago. And it was an Alexander Calder show. And I've seen a number of his shows, but this particular one, there was a sculpture that was made out of steel, yes, thick steel. And it was heavily balanced on one side, heavily weighted on one side, but there was a single point where this sculpture sat on a surface, like on a tabletop or something like that. And it was so perfectly balanced, even though the mass was off the table, this particular sculpture just stood on that one point. And this kind of reminds me of it. I actually have a picture of it somewhere. I know you're looking it up. Anyway, his work reminds me of Calder, and this particular piece even more so. Just the balance and the asymmetry, the perfect positioning. I guess that's all I really have to say. I love the fact that Alan is a very intuitive photographer, and I think that really shows up in his work. That he's not overthinking things, that he is exploring, that he's open, and he works fast. I've been with him. I know he works fast. So I just love the way he works from an intuitive place.
Beautifully said, Wendy. Wendy's always very thorough in her expression of the overall theme of a person's profile and work. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Anything you care to respond to that, Alan?
Well, I appreciated the comment about Calder because, yeah, there's something about the swoop of those lines that felt balanced to me. And I think I looked at this image several times before I decided to really take a deeper dive into it and try to start working with it. So, but yeah, Calder, I never thought of that before, but I definitely see that there. And then also, when I looked at it this morning, that those lines kind of create, it looks like the lens of a sunglass, you know. So it's almost like looking into the void is like looking into someone's sunglass, and you know there's something behind that, but it just looks like a void sometimes when you look at somebody's sunglass. So I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah. It really, like a lot of abstract photography, our work definitely reminds me of aerial photography, of like some swampy shallows, a road going out into a mine maybe. And it reminds me, I don't know if you guys know, there's a photographer called West Aussie Mick. He's been featured on Hintology a few times, but he does all great aerial and drone work, and we're just very reminiscent of what Alan's doing there. Just do a quick show.
There are a couple of photographers from Australia that do gorgeous aerial abstract photography.
It's amazing, but yeah, a lot of this. Anyways, that's just a quick aside.
Also, this Paul Holland from Australia is amazing.
Okay.
guy.
Nice.
And
What's his name again? Michael.
Parash, who's the other photographer you said?
Paul Holland.
Paul Holland.
Holland. Let's take a
Paul
quick
Holland.
look. I'll put him.
Oh,
Paul
Holland.
Holland, like Holen.
Oh, okay. Like Holland, sort of.
Oh, one L. I think it's one L. Let's see. It doesn't show up.
Holden.
I'll look down a few.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I will write in the chat if I.
Okay, yeah, please put it in the chat.
Great.
Yeah. I really like Wendy's insightful comment about sculpture and Calder, because you know, we always talk about you know, paintings and paintings, like, you know, two-dimensional images that our photos might resemble, but the connection, the comparison to sculpture is really, really interesting. And Muriel mentioned Giacometti as well earlier. I hadn't really thought about how we could, or we might also be inspired or influenced by sculpture as well. That's something slightly new to me. And we often talk about the depth, the three-dimensionality of it as well, but I've always struggled a little bit with appreciating sculpture, although I do love it, but it doesn't have the same kind of place in my heart that paintings do. So that opens up something really interesting for me.
I think what we often do is finding depth.
Scroll down a bit.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, there's the page that is
talking about.
Sorry, I just found the page that we were talking about. Go ahead,
Muriel.
Yeah. I think we often, I could say but we often find depth, relief, and depth in a plain surface. It's a great. I think it's a, well, not characteristic, but it's a strong thing in our work. So sculpture have a lot to do with that, I think. Yeah.
I think a lot of how we compose and the areas that have contrast, maybe through light, higher light or lower shadow, has to do with that, which Muriel is talking, like how we look for depth. And that's why it's also playful, sometimes ambiguous, because there can be so much, like in this image, that it can pop up or it can imply depth. Either way, a little bit playing with our cognitive particular bias of each one of us. But definitely, I really, and not just Alan's work, but in a lot of the work we've seen, there's a lot of sculptural and dynamic, like 3D dynamic going on.
That goes back to the sculpture. Yeah, very cool. Nice. All right, let's keep on trucking. We're doing great. Let's see, whose is this? Any claimers before I check my notes? This is
I think
Lesley.
that was me, Lesley.
Yes, go ahead, Lesley.
Okay, when I chose it, I didn't really think about what I was going to say, but I think it's just the colors are just amazing. The kind of purpley, it reminds me of a lobster shell, and I love beachcombing, and I find little sections of lobster shell which have the kind of, that look like crater holes. So it reminds me of that kind of texture. I love how you're drawn into the picture, and I like how there's a contrast of the white sort of craters on the right, and then in the lighter color you see the darker dots, and that kind of balances for me. I don't know, it's just about the whole balance of the picture and the different textures. I love all the kind of the jagged sections of the, I presume it's peeling paint, but overall it feels very organic to me. It, like I say, the lobster shell and then the water and the earth around it, it just feels like a kind of a alien natural landscape. But yeah, I just love it.
Thank you.
Like a kind of alien beach or something. And
Yeah.
you've got like reflections of clouds at the bottom there
Yeah.
as well, maybe.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but it reminds me of the beach in that, where the buildings are kind of washing up on the shore.
Exactly. That's a
It
good
has some surreal kind of Dali, this kind of floating, this like stones in the bottom part. They are like really floating in the air, and that's also noticed this and like this image very much.
And
It feels
Magritte
like,
as well. That massive
Yeah,
stone
exactly.
floating in
Even
that
maybe
Magritte
even more.
painting.
Yeah.
Is it Pascal? I can't remember the name of the photographer, but he throws items up into the air and kind of photographs them in midair. It makes me think of that. It feels like the objects are kind of falling upwards into the picture.
Yeah, what's the name of that guy? Yeah, maybe Pascal, is it? Yeah.
Have you, Alan, read this short story called The Aleph by Borges? No?
No, I haven't. Who's it by?
Don't worry. It's just a short story about this object. It's not a really, it's this thing, it's called the Aleph, where you can see everything in the universe happening in Borges explains it much nicer than I would, of course. But I saw this image, and it makes you wonder, how could you possibly see everything or anywhere at a given spot? And I don't know, it makes me those clouds you put in the back and how well they are with the milky, bubbly thing around. It makes me think that I can see a lot of I'm seeing more of the universe through this magic hole. It reminded me of that story.
It's like you're looking through a crystal ball.
Yeah.
So Aleph, that's spelled A-L-E-P-H.
Yeah, like the letter A in Hebrew, the Aleph. That's how it's called. If you Google it, it's gonna come up really quick.
Yeah.
I'll write it to you if you want.
No, I think I've heard of this story, but I haven't read it. So I'll take a look at it. This image too, actually, when I look at it, it reminds me of Escher, because feels like there's some optical illusion stuff going on. And I know what went into the image, but I look at it sometimes and part of me still can't make sense of it, but yeah, the color palette was an important part of this piece, again, keeping the colors really kind of soft and subtle. But
yeah, it's really beautifully done. The whites here, like I think the Escher thing you're talking about is like little white spots here turning into the black spots here, kind of like that fish and bird.
That's part of it, but also the clouds and the reflection of the water.
Okay.
Reflects the clouds in the sky, but then there's also cloudiness in other parts of the abstract part of the image.
Right.
So,
I managed to find the quote from the Aleph where Borges is describing it. I was using it as inspiration for something I was writing, and so I just got it from my notes. So that's the part in the story that Nirvana is describing, where the character, the narrator, finds this object that kind of contains the whole universe.
Right, we got that in the chat here.
Yeah, I just posted it there.
oh, cool.
So can you describe what the actual landscape is like on the Salton Sea?
Pardon me?
Can you describe what the actual original landscape is like? Is it has it all the water evaporated and that's why it's...
Yeah, the Salton Sea is like this man-made body of water that was created back in, I think, the 20s or 30s, and became like a real vacation spot for people from LA. But I can't remember the details of how it happened, but it became really, really salty. I mean, the salt was so dense in it that it killed the fish, and it became a really smelly, uninhabitable place. So you had these resorts around it that have just been deserted. You know, it's like a ghost town. Now, a couple years ago when I was there, we talked to people who said they're starting to kind of bring it back again and deal with some of the issues, you know. But it's a really interesting place with these. There's a few people that still live around it, but for the most part, a lot of the places are abandoned, and a great place to photograph if you're an abstract photographer. So, but you know, another aspect of this picture too, the traditional photograph, of course, is the Salton Sea and a little bit of an inlet there. But the abstract part of it is I took it from a car in a junkyard.
Hmm.
So you have this man-made abandoned object set against a natural landscape where the place has been abandoned. So they're both different aspects of abandonment, both man-made and natural. So it's kind of a play with that also.
It feels quite nostalgic, or I feel it makes me long for something else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a faded photograph. It has that kind of faded, deteriorating photograph quality to it, where information has kind of been lost to time. Very cool. All right, we're gonna keep going. This one belongs to. Oh, I think that's Lesley Clifford's. This one's mine. This is one of the last ones. Though this one is Michelle. Michelle Polak couldn't make it, but she sent one just in case with a little write-up if we have time. So yeah, this can be the last image, and then maybe we'll look towards summarizing, and maybe Victor, if you have a few questions that come in over the live feed. Apparently we have like 6 to 10 people watching, which is kind of nice. And so if any of those people want to ask a question to Alan or any of us, you can maybe start collecting those. But yeah, this one I chose. I mean, it's only 9 weeks ago, but I love this one for all the reasons that are clear. Like I love the texture of that crinkly kind of tissuey, I don't know, like crumbling, like, yeah, the fractally tissue of like cellular kind of crackling. I love a clear circle in the middle of an image. It immediately becomes, like, for me, a planet. Again, it's some like foreign planetscape that you're looking into. And this planet is right at the edge of a cliff, or you're looking past a cliff to a planet, a moon that's just beyond. The composition of the crackling and kind of chaos along the outside, the sharp circle, and then that lower rectangle of scratching and scoring that brings out the purples and the yellows to contrast with the kind of pinkier orange. Anyways, I just find it's got a little bit of everything, and I don't know if it's composite or not. It feels like it might not have to be, but clearly some playing with. I love the color play in that whole arrangement. Anyways, that's my quick analysis of it. It's obviously too hard to pick a favorite, but this is up there.
Thanks. Yeah. As I said in my brief description, I really like the colors going on in this one. They really complement each other. But again, the colors are kind of subtle, the way I like it.
Mm-hmm.
The word alien, sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
alien landscapes, alien worlds keeps coming up. Oh, thank you. Leslie just mentioned Pascal Ponner is the artist who throws rocks up in the air. She just mentioned in the chat. But
Right.
alien landscapes keeps coming up. And I was just reminded of a kind of movement in poetry. I don't know how widespread it was. It was a little while ago, like 20, 30 years ago, called Martian poetry. And the idea was to kind of imagine yourself, I guess, like an alien, extraterrestrial, a Martian coming to Earth and seeing us, seeing the world from a radically different point of view. And we are seeing our kind of everyday world as alien landscapes. So I wonder if another way of kind of describing what we do, looking at the world through different eyes, is a kind of Martian photography. We're kind of exploring this Earth as an alien landscape and seeing it and presenting it to people as something strange and foreign and exotic and weird. And that's what this one does to me for sure.
Nicely put. Yeah, I like that idea of alien eyes, of like going in with like, yeah, if you didn't know what this is, it could be any and worth sharing in its uniqueness. And like you're taking samples as this ET going around finding the plants, kind of going around collecting these little odd, significant bits of images, information.
Kind of abstract Pokemon Go.
I wish I knew more about what Pokemon Go was, but I don't think it would work.
Don't worry about it.
Abstract Pokemon Go. That should be a theme to work on.
I know, we should make an app, shouldn't we?
There you go. Oh, I like
catch them all.
Get all the beauty.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to get all the beauty. And the that kind of weird webbing tissue that you mentioned looks to me like Japanese washi paper. Just really, really delicate, and it's got these sort of almost falling apart organic forms. That's really, really lovely.
But the colors, I want to come back to colors. They reminded me Paul Klee probably, and I wonder if Alan see this influence here also. Because in many other works also this Paul Klee kind of color palette, a bit restrained and delicate. Paul Klee, you definitely mention him in your descriptions, the painter. The Swiss painter, which I also love.
Paul Klee has always been one of my heroes. But also I think with colors, I really love when I can work with primary colors. So if you break this down, it's basically this shade of blue, pink, and then some gold and yellow at the bottom. And there's some green and purple in it too, but to me, the basic colors are primary colors. I love it when I can do an image where I'm really kind of focused on primary colors. So it makes the image kind of primary to me also. And when we were talking, it brought back to mind this guy I knew a few years ago, and he one way of photography he was into. And there's this little school of photographers. You take your camera and you put on a time lapse, like maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then you throw the camera up in the air and would take a picture when it's in the air, and then you would catch it, and then you would see what it took a picture of. And it kind of struck me that kind of what we do in a sense is related to that. We're kind of looking for things that people don't normally look at and don't normally see, but it means something to us. If any of that makes sense.
Totally.
You have time, and in a sense, we're looking for things which are found time lapses, right? Which have been affected and weathered through lots of time and movement and action and accidental interventions. So it is a kind of time-lapse photography, but without the technology.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
Well-
think almost everything I've taken a picture of, I can't think of an exception. Or the abstract photography I should talk about. Every abstract photograph I take, time is a very crucial element in the creation of the image. You know, so yeah, that's a really interesting point.
I wonder if you could just spin around for a while and then just take a picture of whatever you stopped at. A lot of
That's
your
right, I did too.
movement too.
Get yourself dizzy and then take a
Yeah.
picture.
Add that
There was an
randomness.
experiment I did unknowingly, but then I realized and kind of did it knowingly, where I was stuck in my room, my very small student room at the time, and I wanted to photograph a lot, but then I couldn't go out. It wasn't in the pandemic or anything. And so I'm talking about a very small room full of stuff, no big deal, but finding everything that I found photographable of that, abstract or not, but mainly it was abstract. And it what Alan said about throwing the camera up. I was like, oh no throwing the camera up. I would definitely not be able to catch it. But experiments of allowing, like, my room was no big deal, actually was pretty horrible. But finding some of the photographs that inspired my work when I started most were these weird little things I found in this no big deal room, most standard from anything. By looking like that, like trying to find photographs inside something, like a limitation of sorts. So for example, in what Alan shows about throwing the camera up and let it find something, I don't know, I think we've been training, or maybe from the beginning, that's why maybe we like abstract, but we've been training our eye in a way to find things that are there, but we wouldn't really even find them. It's not, you don't know what you're looking for, like Alan says. So there is a very strong deal of intuition into seeing things, I think. Finding, in this case, for example, the colors, the image is amazing. But when you say, what is it about? It's hard to, that's why I say it's hard to know the subject. And going back to our very recurrent theme about naming or not naming, in my case, this is why I find it very important to name, because it's like, look, I found this, or this weird thing. The act of finding the image, creating it to an extent, yes, we put up the color or we lower, or we can even intervene it. But there's a certain, through certain restrictions and other freedoms, I think we've been training our eyes to really look at these things in any type of setting. This of what Alan says of throwing up the camera, I'm shocked, but it's very interesting to just find something in photographs randomly taken where you don't even control the camera, the place where it is, and still find, of course, many of them probably get discarded, but you still end up finding something. I think that's, in Alan's work, is very palpable, but I think that's something that is in everybody's work that's doing some abstract.
For sure. I think that's
Sorry, that was a long run.
I think that's but I think you just described the format for the Pokemon game, photography game, which is where you just given a random location, you have to go there and take a picture of whatever and
make a series.
Find something in that spot, and then that's just your photo cache for that, and you choose your best abstract photo from that random spot.
We could
And
give
you know
each
what
other
would be funny?
gas coordinates.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that if that happened, like if we did such a game, we would show each other our photos all in different settings or different limitations, and we would still find similar things between our photographs.
And many different things too. Like I love the variety that could, like I said at the beginning, I'll start with the picture that someone else has selected here and immediately see something, and then their version of it be something completely different what they see. And that's what I love about this group. Again, you just get to hear people speak from their eye of perspective, their experience, and fill in blanks that I didn't even know existed.
Well, should we try this? Should we think of like a few kind of limitations or like instructions, and we all go out and do it and see what we come up with? That might be something we could do in the future, not necessarily to post on our feeds if you don't feel comfortable with it or you're not happy with the results, but
yeah, we can do it through the email.
That could be a vox pop. Yeah, yeah. Should we do it? Let's experiment?
Yes.
You know, we could say something like travel 2 miles north, exactly 2 miles, stop, get out and take a picture.
That's what I was thinking, the same thing, or even just take 200 steps. Take 200 steps in any direction and then take a picture.
Or how about we must all have McDonald's nearby. We go to our nearest McDonald's and find.
Oh, that's a good one too. Like a common location. That's a great idea.
Yes. Well, maybe we could brainstorm like in the chat on Instagram, or like by email, a bunch of like instructions or whatever, and we could pick the best ones.
Yeah,
because it needs to be something that's kind of going to fit everyone, right?
Yeah, a tree or can be anything. But yeah, I like the idea of little assignments. That's a great idea. Like
a little assignment, yeah. Sounds really fun.
I wanted to propose something like that, but this one is even better. I hadn't had a chance last time I spoke to you guys. I said we should do something together, kind of like an exquisite cadaver. Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, like the poetry that you write, kind of only inspired on the previous line that somebody else wrote. Anyway, I didn't do it because I didn't have time. Stuff got in. But I really think that we could have like little homeworks, so to speak, or activity kind of like this, where we choose to do something inspired a little bit on what we've been talking about or seeing together. I'd be up for Pokemon Go abstract totally.
Awesome.
I'll first have to learn how to play Pokemon.
Abstract Go.
You know, this is a great idea just for our group. It's like each time we meet, maybe we can come up with an assignment, and then the following meeting we can share what we all took. I think
that'd be super fun. Let's follow up with this on our email chain after this. And we can either come up with one between now and our next one for our next one, or table one on our next one to do for the one after that. But yeah, I love the idea of little projects. That's great.
By the way, my friend, I don't know if you can see this. The photographers, I blurred out my background. How do I unblur?
Put it by your face. Put it by your face.
Put it right by my face.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
The photographer's playbook. This is 300 assignments and ideas. A friend of mine got it when he went back to America and got it for me, and it's absolutely brilliant. I haven't looked into it so much because it's almost overwhelmingly fun, but I think this might give us some amazing ideas. And I'll share it with you. I wonder if there's like an illegal PDF we can get online as well, but maybe you can actually buy it. This might give us a bit of inspiration. Let me just type it.
You can make copies.
Sorry.
You can make copies of every page and then make a PDF for us.
I could do that. Yes, Alan. I have loads of spare time with 2 kids and a full-time job, and it's only 400 pages. Thank you, sir.
You could just pin a random page.
Send me the thing.
Sometimes on Amazon. Sometimes on Amazon you can look at a book and get a few pages. That's true. And Google Books as well, I guess. Yeah. And I'll look through it and see if there's anything really, really fun for us. But yeah, let's do that. Tim, did you say you make a Google Doc or something? Sorry, what were you saying?
No, but that's a great idea. I was
like through
seeing if there's a PDF for it. Here it is. There's the PDF, I think. Anyways. But yeah, I like the idea of we could start with the doc or with the there's a PDF there. Yeah, or start with the email and just get a few ideas together and agree on one. Oh, okay. Maybe don't want to spam myself. Anyway, we'll figure that out.
This could
Yeah,
be
I
really
love
good
that
too.
idea. I love that idea.
It's
I
called the
think there's a
baton.
question.
Can you give us the title again, please?
It's in the chat. It's in the chat. The
okay.
photographer's
Photographer's playbook.
and Nikki says maybe just open a random page. Yeah, if we're going to have randomness here, then we have to put it everywhere, don't we?
Right. As
Yeah,
long
Tim
as,
put the whole
it's
thing.
something that everyone can do. It applies to. It can be an internationally applied suggestion.
And then yeah, that's great. Oh, and so Vincent from Hintology magazine says if you have time for a question, did you see that, Tim? Can you, if you scroll up a bit?
So yeah, we have a question from one of our 12 people on the Hintology feed. At Grid J Hankey Art asks, what is the most important thing inside an abstract photography? Maybe inside, what is the most important thing inside an abstract photograph?
Yeah, we've sort of talked a little bit about this before. Yeah, what's the most important elements, or what must you include?
Well, let's give the floor to Alan first, since he's a feature. No pressure, Alan, but if you want to.
Well, yeah, off the top of my head, I would say composition. I mean, it's when I look for something, I think the first thing I look at is the composition, and I look for interesting ways to compose it. And then because I can always come back to Photoshop and play with the colors and get a color palette that I like or works for me. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Anyone else have a comment on what the most important thing is? What is the most important thing inside?
I like what Nikki said in the chat. Just what winks at me as I pass by.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
100%. I thought I'd better give a voice to my my comments. Yeah, I just love going out, not expecting I'm taking anything. Just go for a little walk, and then suddenly I've got my nose on the pavement. People thinking, why is my boss in the air and my nose on the ground? And I've seen something that can grab my attention for ages, and I'll take it from all different sort of angles. At the end of the day, when you walk past it the next day, it's just a bit of bird poop or something, It's just
Or maybe it's gone.
Or maybe it's gone.
Totally different in a different light on a different day.
100%. Yeah. Or it's been raining on it, so it's made it shiny. Or So I just love that the not knowing and the anticipation. That's what really excites me by this whole forum and the way we're talking about it. And yeah, I just find it exciting because I've done this for years. And lots of people go, well, why have you photographed that? Well, yuck, that's just mold, and it's not, the mold becomes like another whole sort of landscape, etc. So anyway.
Right. So you'd say the most important thing inside the photograph is you seeing something exciting, right? It's something you see, like it's you seeing yourself, or you're seeing something that's speaking to you. That's the thing inside it, is you are seeing something inside it.
Yeah, and I would say it's even more than just seeing. It's actually it's like a whole body experience. So
right.
It's something takes over me, and I go like, "Whoa, gosh, that's so exciting!" And it's not like, "Oh, I think that looks rather nice. I will take a good photograph of that." It's just like I completely embrace it. But
the way I described it too is like feeling blessed. Like when you find something that just not more than winks at you, it like whistles and goes, "Hey." You feel really, you feel really blessed to be like, wow, I stumbled across this little, in this enormous world, I stumbled across this little thing to capture my fascination and my inspiration. How lucky I am to find it. That's when I know I'm on something great, when I get that feeling of like, whoa, what are the odds?
That's right. And then somebody else walks past you and they go, excuse me, is it okay to ask what you're doing?
Right. Are you hurt?
Wow, I'd never have noticed that before. So it's about, sharing as well, about an expanded awareness of like you said, a bigger visual picture.
Yeah, whether you're sharing it online or sharing it with someone who stops to ask if you're injured on the street because you're bent over by a dumpster, you know, you get to share with them, and then sometimes they'll be like, yeah, oh, there's the nose, there's the eyes. You know, I love that street level interaction.
They go, uh-oh, right.
It's one of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the risk of sounding perhaps too philosophical, like
Oh, my
I think
little
that
boys. Yeah.
I think that it's like finding what's the most important thing is that the subjective kind of us, like our subjectivity, reflects onto something objective, like whatever that scrape in the dumpster suddenly becomes a place where my subjectivity at that moment not only saw something, but that something that first calls you and you're like, oh, let me take a photo of this, it looks very cool. And then you start seeing things. And for me, that's like the reflection. And then we show it to each other here and we're like, oh, I see this, I see that. And it's really amazing that happens. For me, what makes an abstract photo or an abstract anything is kind of the encounter of a subjectivity into an object thing. Like it's just purely that. And then we come up with our interpretations and our narratives and what it makes us feel and everything. And we work them up and all of that, let's say, is part of the craft. But what is inside is that encounter for me.
Yeah.
Well put.
Energy.
What was that? Sorry. Wendy, you said something I didn't quite
Oh,
catch.
I said a kind of spirit and energy.
Spirit
that
and energy.
we
Yeah.
bring to the image.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very much that. It's something beyond the thinking and something beyond the I'll take a photo. It's something beyond, because I don't know. I won't go into it, but I've been doing, I'm not going to finish it, I don't think, a fine art degree. And you know, I was showing my photographs and my tutor was just like, yeah, well, okay, but that's just a photograph. What are you going to do with it? So I just find that's why I find this group really inspiring, because I don't feel I need to do anything with it. The fact it stopped me in my tracks and I paused a moment in, you know, this busy life to see something in a different way. Is that not enough? You know, I don't know. Maybe it's not.
Amen. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, we're gonna start to wind things down for today.
Wound up.
I know. I mean, we know we could go on for ages, but in the idea of just keeping it at a watchable, fair size. So what what I usually do is I've written down some of the keywords that came up with Alan's photography that we talked about, just to summarize. Obviously, composite, his style of photography, a lot of talk about play, exploration. Personally, like how Alan has evolved as an artist, like exploring different techniques, I think is impressive. Painterly and very like the clear strokes and use of motion and directing the eye with his work. The importance of titles and story that are evocative, strong subjects. Definitely, yeah, the titles leading you in without being too heavy-handed. Putting the B in subtlety is one of Alan's keys. I should say putting the in subtlety, because you don't pronounce the B. His use of color, when talking about subtlety, color, and delicacy of color and light, detail, texture, a dance, balance, that idea of motion and balance in his work, intuitiveness, it's really, his intuitiveness in his play and his exploration, sculpture, and nostalgia. Those were some of the key words that came up for Alan. Alan, do you want to have any final words before we finish off?
Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate everybody's comments. You know, like I said before, hearing everybody talk either about my work or someone else's work, it always helps me to see things that I didn't see before. So, and photography is all about seeing. So, so I really appreciate everybody showing up and making your comments. So thank you.
Wonderful. All right, Victor, if you have anything on your end.
Vincent, I think. Vincent.
Oh, sorry, Vincent. If you have anything on your end that you'd like to add from your live stream before we finish off.
Nothing here, he says.
Nothing here. Okay. Great.
Alan, I just wondered if you could quickly plug your other project here.
Yes, yes, good idea.
What, the other Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little hiatus. I've been having trouble getting somebody to step up, and so I think our next one may be in October, and we have someone lined up for November. So basically, it's an art forum for Instagram artists, and I usually pick either a painter or a collagist who does abstract art, and we have great discussions, and we have a Q&A session at the end of the sessions that people can ask the artist questions, and we record everyone. I think we have 12 or 13 of them on YouTube. So if anybody wants to have the links, you just send me a DM in my Instagram account. I could send you the links for it. But yeah, they've been really good. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do it. It's like if I can't get people to step up and talk about their work, then it's we'll see. But yeah, we've had some really good sessions. So thanks for bringing it up, Paul.
I wonder if anyone that we know, that we follow, or that we have connections with, that we could suggest to you. You follow lots of people, but perhaps we could kind of source somebody for you, because it would be such a shame. I've thoroughly enjoyed those art Zoom meetings. They're just like a public service. I see it as that. So I want to try to help you keep it going. So I'll see if I can think of someone that might do it.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing them. We always have me and the other guy who works with me to put this together. We always have a meeting with the artist before the actual meeting, so
Yeah.
we get really great conversations just in those very brief meetings, But yeah, and obviously I'm staying away from photographers because we kind of cover that in this group. But I'm
Well, what about putting out a call? I mean, we can put out a call on our channel or whatever. I mean, we're mentioning this on Hintology now live too, but I would maybe suggest you posting as Alan, saying like, please send me your suggestions for people who you think you'd like to see featured, or you'd like us to approach about being featured, and kind of pool the community. The community you built around this is I think similar to Paul, would be like eager to like, oh, here's someone you may not have heard of.
Yeah, I'll do that. That'd be really great. And also, I think I choose artists that can really inform us as abstract photographers.
Right.
Yeah.
I find everyone I found really inspiring, and I get ideas for things I could look for or do in my work when I'm in Photoshop. So yeah, everyone. And the two words I use a lot when I'm describing them, they're inspiring and rewarding, and they really are. So yeah, that'd be great if I could get a little help in keeping it going. So yeah, I'll put something out in the next couple of days.
Yeah, if you put it out, we'll all share it for sure.
That's great.
Yes, good idea.
Cool.
Okay, so I think we're just about ready to finish it. Look, we're ending right under 2 hours. My goodness, what a
Can't
miracle!
believe it. Something's
It's
gone wrong.
like a abstract photography international Zoom miracle. We're ending on time. Okay, so yeah, let's just I thank everyone for showing up, for taking time wherever you are in your day or night to tune in and talk about our favorite nerdy subject. And yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry. I have a question after your statement.
No, I'm just thanking everyone for taking the time, and for people on Hintology who took time just to tune in and listen and watch us do our regular casual thing. So thank you, and thanks to Vincent for setting that up. This broadcast will be a private or an unlisted link on YouTube sometime in the next few weeks. So you can watch it there again if you missed some of it today.
How many more portfolio reviews do we have?
Let me take a quick look. On my list, next I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After I've got Gudrun, then Helen, Ann Evans, Deborah Booker, Greg, Marianne Zucker, and Terrace are next. So I have a few lined up. To have just like asked to be put on the list of the people we're going through. So usually in the week before, I'll email or message people to make sure they're able to come to this one, and then if they are, then we confirm and start the process.
Did you have another idea, Wendy? Is that why you were asking?
No, I was just wondering, because we had talked about doing these challenges and then bringing our challenges and
oh yeah, how could we fit it in?
So I mean, if we still have reviews to do, so I was trying to get a sense of where that was
right.
at.
Well, maybe it's something too, we can throw one of those challenges in once in a while, like maybe more often, or like maybe one month and then a profile the next month. Like we can figure out a way that keeps it interesting, but also appreciating the format that some people, it's so valuable to have your profile looked at and explored and explained back to you, that I'm happy to give everyone a chance to do that. But it's something, I mean, if we keep going on and doing this, we'll have lots of opportunity to. And I think in the winter, for me, things slow down a little bit and I can be available a little bit more regularly. We'll see.
Also with the assignments, we could share them in the chat that we do. So
yeah, or on Abstract Photographers International hashtag. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can make a little hashtag for it as well. And perhaps just the last 10 or 15 minutes of like one of the appreciations. We could just you could just throw them up on the screen, Tim. It doesn't have to take that much time, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I think sounds a good idea. Yeah, it'd be
kind of nice to see them. Okay. Is everyone here on Tim's email list? So if we were gonna make a Google Doc or something, to brainstorm assignments, does everyone have access to that?
I'm not sure if I do.
If you haven't received an email in the last couple of days about this, then I don't have your email. So send me a DM or put in the chat your email address now to make sure you're getting my emails, because that's the most reliable way to reach everyone at the same time. We have Instagram chat group, but it's booked up, like they won't allow us to add any more people to it. So yeah, let's talk about it on email. Send me your email if you haven't received it. Okay, great. Thanks, Nikki. And we'll pick this up sometime in the next couple of weeks for our next forum. This has been great. I can't believe we've done 16 of these. This is so exciting. All right. And it's exactly 2:00. Thank you, Alan, for sharing all your insights into your photography. Fascinating, beautiful, inspiring. And thanks to everyone for sharing their selections and their comments.